blue and white wares, designate white pottery and porcelain decorated under the glaze with a blue pigment, generally cobalt oxide. The decoration is commonly applied by hand, by stenciling or by transfer printing, though other methods of application have also been used. Origin and development. Tang and Song blue and white. The first Chinese blue and white wares were as early as the 9th century in Henan Province, China, although only shards have been discovered. Tang period blue and white is even rarer than Song blue and white and was unknown before 1985. The Tang pieces are not porcelain, however, but rather earthenwares with greenish-white slip, using cobalt blue pigments. The only 3 pieces of complete Tang blue and white in the world were recovered from Indonesian Belitung shipwreck in 1998 and later sold to Singapore. 14th century development. In the early 14th century, mass production of fine, translucent bluey and white porcelain started at Jingdezhen, sometimes called the porcelain capital of China. This development was due to the combination of Chinese techniques and Islamic trade. The new ware was made possible by the export of cobalt from Persia, combined with the translucent white quality of Chinese porcelain. Cobalt blue was considered as a precious commodity, with a value about twice that of gold. Motifs also draw inspiration from Islamic decorations. A large portion of these blue and white wares was then shipped to Southwest Asian markets through the Muslim traders based in Guangzhou. Chinese bluey and white porcelain was once fired. After the porcelain body was dried, decorated with refined cobalt blue pigment mixed with water and applied using a brush, coated with a clear glaze and fired at high temperature. For the 16th century, local sources of cobalt blue started to be developed, although Persian cobalt remained the most expensive. Production of blue and white wares has continued at Jingdezhen to this day. Bluey and white porcelain made at Jingdezhen probably reached the height of its technical excellence during the reign of the Kangxi Emperor of the Qing dynasty. Evolution of blue and white ware. 14th century. The true development of blue and white ware in China started with the first half of the 14th century, when it progressively replaced the century-long tradition of bluish-white ware, or Qingbai. The main production center was in Jingdezhen, Jiangxi Province. 15th century. With the advent of the Ming dynasty in 1368, bluey and white ware was shunned for a time by the court, especially under the Hongwu and Yongle emperors, as being too foreign in inspiration. Bluey and white porcelain, however, came back to prominence with the Shand emperor, and again developed from that time on. 16th century. Some blue and white wares of the 16th century were characterized by Islamic influences, such as the ware under the Zheng emperor, which sometimes bore Persian and Arabic script, due to the influence of Muslim eunuchs serving at his court. 17th century. During the 17th century, numerous blue and white pieces were made as export porcelain for the European markets. European symbols and scenes coexisted with Chinese scenes for these objects. 18th century. In the 18th century, export porcelain continued to be produced for the European markets. As a result of the work of François-Xavier d'Entrecoles, however, an early example of industrial spying in which the details of Chinese porcelain manufacture were transmitted to Europe. Chinese exports of porcelain soon shrank considerably, especially by the end of the reign of the Qianlong Emperor. Influences on Islamic pottery. Chinese blue and white ware became extremely popular in the Middle East from the 14th century, where both Chinese and Islamic types coexisted. For the 13th century, Chinese pictorial designs, such as flying cranes, dragons and lotus flowers, also started to appear in the ceramic productions of the Near East, especially in Syria and Egypt. Chinese porcelain of the 14th or 15th century was transmitted to the Middle East and the Near East, and especially to the Ottoman Empire, either through gifts or through war booty. Chinese designs were extremely influential with the pottery manufacturers at Iznik, Turkey. The Ming grape design in particular was highly popular and was extensively reproduced under the Ottoman Empire. Influences on European porcelains. Qing Horn Sealy. Early influences. Chinese blue and white ware were copied in Europe from the 16th century, with the faience blue and white technique called alla porcellana. Soon after, the first experiments to reproduce the material of Chinese blue and white porcelain were made with Medici porcelain. These early works seem to be mixing influences from Islamic as well as Chinese blue and white wares. Direct Chinese imitations. By the beginning of the 17th century, Chinese blue and white porcelain was being exported directly to Europe. In the 17th and 18th centuries, Oriental blue and white porcelain was highly prized in Europe and America and sometimes enhanced by fine silver and gold mounts. It was collected by kings and princes. The European manufacture of porcelain started at Meissen in Germany in 1707. The detailed secrets of Chinese hard-paste porcelain technique were transmitted to Europe through the efforts of the Jesuit Father François-Xavier d'Entrecoles between 1712 and 1722. The early wares were strongly influenced by Chinese and other Oriental porcelains, and an early pattern was blue onion, which is still in production at the Meissen factory today. The first phase of the French porcelain was also strongly influenced by Chinese designs. Early English porcelain wares were also influenced by Chinese wares, and when, for example, the production of porcelain started at Worcester, nearly 40 years after Meissen, Oriental blue and white wares provided the inspiration for much of the decoration used. Hand-painted and transfer-printed wares were made at Worcester and at other early English factories in a style known as chinoiserie. Many other European factories followed this trend. In Delft, Netherlands, blue and white ceramics, taking the designs from Chinese export porcelains made for the Dutch market, were made in large numbers. Throughout the 17th century, blue and white Delftware was itself extensively copied by factories in other European countries, including England, where it is known as English Delftware. Patterns. The plate shown in the illustration is decorated with the famous willow pattern and was made by Royal Stafford, a factory in the English county of Staffordshire. Such is the persistence of the willow pattern that it is difficult to date the piece shown with any precision. It is possibly quite recent, but similar wares have been produced by English factories in huge numbers over long periods and are still being made today. The willow pattern, said to tell the sad story of a pair of star-crossed lovers, was an entirely European design, though one that was strongly influenced in style by design features borrowed from Chinese export porcelains of the 18th century. The willow pattern was, in turn, copied by Chinese potters, but with the decoration hand-painted rather than transfer-printed.